Pyfer. There's not a documentary being made about Joe Pyfer for no reason. The cards that this guy were dealt are insane. The fact that he's in the UFC right now is incredibly inspiring, and not only is he just in the UFC, he is thriving in the UFC. When you watch this guy fight, you can see that he is an absolute stud. He's only 27 years old and has already put together an impressive highlight tape. He can knock you out, he can take you down, he can put you to sleep. This guy has it all, and it looks like he can run the middleweight division one day. But his route to the UFC was a long and difficult journey. He had to overcome extreme adversity after a terrible upbringing made worse by an abusive relationship with his father. He was left behind by his family.
I will say this, like, I don't have any close connections with family whatsoever.
Not a single one.
Not a single one.
And he had to spend multiple nights on a park bench. Joe had to overcome extremely difficult days from a very young age. He stated in a podcast recently that he got physically beat from the time that he was 1 year old to the time that he was 16.
If I said anything smart-mouthed, like, what the fuck is wrong with you type thing, it would turn into a fist fight.
And how old are you?
15.
15?
15.
And you're
Listen, this was not 15. This was something I started getting beat at a year old. I started getting beat at a year old. Both my parents blamed each other for it.
His dad would punch him, kick him, and tell him things like he was a piece of poop and he was never going to be anything in life. Then one day, he had enough of the abuse. He shoved his father and he ran out of his home, never to return. He was 16 years old, still in high school, and he had nowhere to go. His mom's house wasn't an option either because she hated him even more. She was abusive mentally and physically, just like the dad.
My mom was just as abusive as my dad, and a lot more verbal than physical. But, you know, when you get beat by your mom physically, it hurts a lot more than your father. I don't know why. I guess it's the emotions that you're supposed to have with your mom. Yeah, I mean, my mom despised me because I was a spitting image of my dad.
So with nowhere to go, he had to sleep on a park bench for a week straight and join the high school wrestling team just so he can shower during this week.
You're in school at this time?
Yeah, I was in school. I joined wrestling so I could shower and things like that. And I was only for like a week. Maybe a little bit more than that.
A fellow classmate who Joe once protected from bullies found out about Joe's situation and let him come stay with him and his adopted dad. On the plus side, he now had a roof over his head until he was out of high school, but this home was not the best living situations either. The adopted father was an extreme hoarder and he did not take care of this house. He was an alcoholic. They were living in filth. There were roaches everywhere, dirt and rust everywhere you look, but it was a better situation than his previous home, so he stayed here until he graduated. Joe also stated recently that his high school wrestling coach saved his life. The coach was named Will Harmon, and Joe Pyfer says that this was his life savior, and even went on to say that if it wasn't for this man, he would not be alive today. The coach took him under his wing and taught him many life lessons that he was missing. He provided him an elderly guidance that he had never had before. Will also provided Joe with an outlet. Wrestling was his form of therapy and a way to get things off of his mind. A few months after he graduated high school, he decided to quit his job at LA Fitness and he went full-time with training MMA. He moved into the old wrestling coach's home and he lived rent-free while he was chasing his dream. He had no money, so his diet was completely horrible. He didn't have any personal coaches except for the wrestling coach, and he only had 2 training partners. Fighting out of straight anger, he made it to the UFC Contender series. He got to the championship fight and he had a gruesome elbow injury and lost the bout. For some, this could have been it. This elbow injury looked career-ending. It looked like his arm was never going to be the same, and it wasn't like he was some big shot like Chris Weidman or Conor McGregor. These guys had injuries while they were already stars. Joe was a nobody. He wasn't in the UFC yet, and nobody even knew his name. But being the relentless fighter that he is, he healed himself up, he got back to training, and he fought his way back into the Contender series. He beat his opponent, won his UFC contract, and Dana White caught wind of Joe's story, and after Joe earned his UFC contract, Dana White gave Joe $20,000, and he paid his rent for a year. Since then, Joe has been looking very impressive in the UFC. He is 3-0, he's finished each of his opponents, and he's finished them all in the first or second round. He looks like he could do some serious damage in the middleweight division one day. I mean, he's got the power, he's got the wrestling, he's got good jiu-jitsu, this guy's got it all, and he has an incredible incredible story, super inspiring, and it really shows you that you could do anything that you put your mind to. I would love to see Joe keep killing it. He also has a documentary coming out, like I said, supposed to come out sometime in 2024, so that will be super cool to see, and I hope you guys enjoyed this story. Keep on the lookout for Joe Pyfer. If you guys are interested in anything UFC, MMA, Jiu-Jitsu, any of that stuff, it's all on this channel, so stay tuned, hit that sub button. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys on the next one.